Hey guys, welcome back again to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick, as you know, and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to look at consuming authentication and refresh token endpoint in client web app, and that is a Blazor WebAssembly. If you have no idea on what we are doing, then this is just an employee management system, and it's a series of videos that we have started. Check the video description. We have the other two videos in there. You can just watch them to help you get understanding for this project. You can do any of the following to support this channel. You can subscribe and also hit on the notification bell so you receive an update as soon as I upload a new content. You can also like this video by clicking on the thumbs up icon. So check that video description. You can just click on that icon over there. You can also buy me coffee to support this, and if you want to do that, check the video description. A link has been provided in there. I do offer training session for people who are interested in .NET technologies, talking about Blazor Server and Blazor WebAssembly. For web app, we have .NET MARI and Blazor Hybrid for mobile app, and .NET Web API for web services. I also have an email in the video description, so you can write through that mail. All right, so now let's say in the last video, we were able to create this endpoint. We have a registering endpoint, login endpoint, and we have a refresh token endpoint. So user can now register. We registered one over there. So here we use ID 1, 2, 3. Maybe you can try it 4. So we can now register here. And now when you register, you must have just a response from the server. If it goes on well, you're going to have a response. After that, you can now log in, and when you log in, you're going to have access to a token and a refresh token. So as soon as you have a refresh token, you can see we have account created. So we can also log in here. Let's try to log in, and now the user here is 4. So user 4 with the same password, whereby it is going to return a token, and now that's the JWT token and a refresh token with the row as user. If you want to get a refresh token, maybe when this token expires and you want to retrieve a new token, what we're going to do here is we go to this, put refresh token, and now we're going to paste in the token, that's a refresh token in here. And as soon as we click on execute, this is going to generate a new token and a refresh token for us. So when you compare this refresh token, it ends with HQ. So check this one, it ends with IQ. Check the token itself, it ends with M0. Now check the token here, it ends with SE. So you can see that you have a different tokens altogether. And that is what we have been doing in the first and the second video. So in this, how do you consume this endpoint from a WebAssembly? Let's see how to handle that. So quickly, I'm going to close this. Then this is what we did. Now, let me close all the tabs in here so we can have a fresh view to handle this. Now let's go to Solution Explorer. We have our client service. We have all our projects added. Now we have this data access layer. So this contains all the mechanism, the contract, and the repositories, whereby you can have access to the database. This is going to handle the client library. It's going to handle all services related to the client. So what we're going to do here is, after creating these services, we go to the client and we consume the service from this client library. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Now before we jump right into this, we have to install some packages to this client, and now it's a library. That's going to be the service project. So let's do that. I'm going to click on this client. So, and maybe I'll just unload this. So once I have this item group, I have these packages that I need to include, or you and I need to include. And that is, let me put them here. So we have to install Blazor, the local storage. We have to install Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Component.Authorization. You need to also install WebAssembly. Is there already, so we don't need that. It is there. We need 3 packages, and we need Microsoft.Extension.HTTP. So we need to install these packages. So let's save it. So after saving this, what we're going to do here is go to Solution, then right click on the client, and now click on Reload Project with Dependencies. This is going to update all the necessary links that we added, the packages that we added here. If you don't want to do this, you can just copy the name of the package here. You go to the same solution, open the client and right click on dependencies, go to manage NuGet packages. And now in here, you can just paste it to the browse tab and I'll try to install them. Now, since I did that, I have them installed, as you can see over here. Let's also navigate to the client project, that is the service project. So let's go to solution, and I can see we have this a client library. So I click on this, and maybe we can just go to manage NuGet packages. Now in here we can install the system.identity models.token. Let's install this package from here. Aside from this, we also need to install the same local storage from the Blazor local storage by Crescenti. So let's do that. And that is this one. So let's install this package to the client project as well. Okay, so we have our packages installed, and the next thing to do here is to create the service. So go to solution, and I could see, let me minimize all this. Okay, so you can see from the client library, when you open it, you can see we have services folder, click on it, and you have this contract. We need to create an interface for this. So we need to choose an interface, and the name of this interface is going to be user account service. Now this user account service is going to handle, let's say, for testing purpose, I want us to add this. We're going to be testing this. Later on, we're going to modify this. So for now, let's have this method in here. We have our general response to control period. Let's see, we have to link the reference to this. Remember that we created this general response for registration, and we did that for the login. Okay, so we have this. Now let's see. So let's go to the base library, and I want to check the responses. We have a general response method here, and it's a public record, and we have the login response also the same public record. So these are the models that we are adding as a response. Now once you have this, let's see, we have also same, so using responses. Okay, and now here's a using weather forecast. So just for the testing purpose. So when you check the API, when you check the server, we have a default weather forecast. So we are going to move this, then put this to the DTO. Actually, when we are done, we're going to remove this. You're using this for a test purpose. You put this in here. Now let's change the namespace. Yes, the namespace.dto. Now let's put it to the same weather forecast.dto. So that's the namespace in here. Okay. Now when you go to the weather forecast, we can now make change in there. So when you go to the controller, and you can see we are now using from the base library. So we need to include the link in here. So control period, we have to include this. So let's use, okay. So this is solved. So we have our interface in here. We want to create async, create an account, sign in, and also get a refresh token, which is handling with this refresh token as a payload to be posted. This has only one property in it, that's a token, and this is where we're going to pass in our refresh token when we have a 401 that is and not authorized. Okay, so we have this for testing purpose. Now let's go in there and create implementation for this. So do you know where you're going to create the implementation? Yes, I believe we do. When you check, we have implementation folder to the service project, and that is where we are going to have all our implementations in here. There's going to be a class, and the name is going to be user account service, and it's going to inherit from the interface that is the user account service. So here, control period, we have to include the contract namespace. This must be public, and we have to extract or implement all the interfaces, the 4 interfaces that we created. To control period, you can see let's implement our interfaces. So we have 4 interfaces here for get weather forecast. I want to put this at the last because when we are done, we're going to remove this. So this one will be the last one. So we have registration, we have login, and we have sign in async. So this is going to be sign in. Okay, so I want to rearrange it well. Registration comes in, then we have sign in before refresh token. You know, with this, what we're going to do here is with the create and on the sign in and also the refresh token, we're going to make an API call. And now we are in the client project, so it means that we're going to have access to the local storage of the browser, because when the user logs in and a token and a refresh token is being retrieved, the best or the good practice way is to keep the token. Now, where are you going to keep it? You can keep it in the either a cookie or a local storage. This time we're going to use local storage to save the token and also the refresh token. So we need a model to handle the token and the refresh token. After that, we need a class whereby we can inject it or register that class, so we can be injecting into other components or other classes, so we can have access to the token from the local storage. So anytime that you call that service, you can retrieve, you can update, you can remove the item from local storage. Aside from that, you need to also get an HTTP client. That client, we have to have it, we have to add the token to that client header before a request is being made. But you know, when you create or when you sign in, this time around, the header has no authorization because we're going to make it as allow anonymous on top of the controller. So if the user tries to create an account, the user doesn't need to be authenticated before he can perform that. Sign into same. And for the refresh token, the user must log in and the user must receive the refresh token. This refresh token must be kept. And anytime that you want to make a refresh token, we have to go to a local storage, retrieve the refresh token, and I make a post on an API, and I retrieve a new token and a refresh token, and I'll do it again. So that's what this is going to handle. Now let's have a model to handle the method or to handle the token and the refresh token, which is going to be kept in the client local storage. So with this, we're going to create a class. We're going to name this class as user session in the DTO. So let's put the DTO here. Let's add this class as user session. Now this is going to handle only 2 properties. And that's going to be the token and the refresh token. So we have token and the refresh token. This must be public. We don't want to store any information again onto the client's browser, because you know the client can go to the local storage and view all the information over there. So we don't want to save some crucial information in there. What we need here is the token and the refresh token. If the user tries to make a change to any of the token, it means that the authentication state here is going to be damaged, because the token won't correspond to what we have in the database, especially that is going to be the refresh token. So that's what we are doing. Let's close all this. Let's save that. So yeah, since we are going to be serializing and deserializing models, we want to create a separate static class to handle that. So in the client library, let's create one folder to this. We're going to name this as helpers. Mine is helpers, but maybe you can also change it to what you think is suitable for your project. So here I'm going to create this class, and that's going to be serializations. Now this is going to be a static class. And now in that class, you're going to have this. Okay, so we have this serialization, and we're going to serialize this object of T. So it means it's going to be a generic. So any model that we pass in, we can serialize that. And aside from that, we are also deserializing this the same model here. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a list in case you want to have a list of models. We can also deserialize the list of models in here. So for now, we're going to concentrate on the first 2, and later on to talk about the last one. So here we can control period. remove all necessary usings. Okay, so we have this registration model done. The next thing that we're going to create here is going to be the local storage service. Now this local storage service is going to handle all local storage CRUD, remove, get, and also set. Okay, so let's do that from the same helper. Now you know that this is a static class, so it means each instance is going to be created once, and now we can be using it often. Now with this, you're not going to make it as a static because this is going to handle with an async. So let's have that also created. Let's add a new class in here, and this is going to be local storage service. That's the name that I'm giving to this. In that, we want to include a local storage service. This must be a public. We can remove all this. Then in here, we also want to have a local storage service. We create our local storage key here. Let me remove the things. We have a duplication. Okay, so we have a local storage. This is the key, and this is the key that we're going to use in the local storage. Then here get token. So local storage.get item as async. We pass in the key. Then here set token. So this is going to be the string of items going to come in here. Then we have the key already. We specify the key. And now in here, we specify the item. Then remove token. We get the key here, and I remove from the local storage. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to set, get, and now remove. Okay. Now the next module that we need to create here is to get an HTTP client. Now this get HTTP client, we are going to fetch the data. We're going to fetch data from the local storage and append it to the header of an HTTP client. So anytime that we call the HTTP client, it's going to get the local storage data, check if it has it, visualize it, and append it to the client or the header of an HTTP client before it makes it a request. Okay, so let's quickly also create that. And now with this, I'm going to make it as get HTTP client. So with the same helper, I'm going to create it in here, get HTTP client. Now with this, since we install package of Microsoft.extension.http, we can now use HTTP client factory. Okay, so in that factory, we can create our own client and give it a specific or a specified name. This must be a public, and this also won't be a static because it's going to be a task. We are going to first create. Let's have our method in here. Now the first method that we are creating here is going to check this. Let me remove this here to clear all these spaces. Okay, let me just include this too. Okay, so control period. Did we install this? Okay, so we have to install this package. To this quickly, let's do that. So right click on that's the client library, that's the service project. Go to manage and get packages, and in here we need to install Microsoft.extensions.http. So we need to install this package. Okay, so now this is installed. Let's come here, control period, and now you can see it is gone now. So you can see we are injecting this HTTP client factory, and also we are injecting the local storage service that we created. Aside from that, you have a header key as an authorization. We want to get a private HTTP client. Now what are this private going to do? It's going to get, you see, we first create a client in here. Then that client that we are creating, we are getting get token from this local storage service. This is going to return a string. So we check if string is null, it means that the user has not logged in, meaning there's no token found in the local storage. I want to return a client. This time is going to be a new client because here authorization header has not been added, so it's just a normal client. But in case it is there, we want to visualize it into a user session, which is going to be the token and the refresh token. And I will also check if it is null, we want to return. But this is just a check purpose. It is not going to be null, because as soon as it found it, you're going to have a data in there. That's the value in there. But let's say maybe if there's some issue here, we have it as null, we want to also check it. But in case it is not, then you see we are adding the authorization header to the client. So we are saying equal to new system.http header.authorization value. And then in here, we specify the bearer, and now we specify the serialized or token. We can extract the token from it. So we add the token to the header, and after doing that, you want to return the client. So this client here is going to have header appended. So this client here is different from this client here. This client here has no authorization added, but this has it. Now this is a get public HTTP client. So here it's going to check maybe if header it is there, this header key is there, then it's going to remove it, because with this we don't want to add any header. This is for a public endpoint, like create or register account, login, and even refresh token. It's a public one, so we don't need a header attached in the client before we can make a request to it. And that is what this is doing. So it's going to check if it's there, going to remove it, then it's going to return a new client here with no authorization header added. So this is what we are doing. So anytime that we call this method, we can have two methods in here: get public HTTP client and also get a private HTTP key client. So now that we have this, we can now go to the implementation and I'll start doing some things in it. That is the user account service. So user account service. So first of all, we're going to do here from the create async. What are we going to do? We have to inject the get HTTP client here. So let's inject this. After injecting, we want to just create URL, and that's going to be the public constant. But this is what we're going to be using for the authentication. So it's better that we put it here in order not to be typing to skip typos. So we can just put it to one line here, and we can be using the auth URL. So what we're going to do here is first we want to check. You can even check if user model is null, then run a return. But here, when they use data annotation, that's the form validation, it's going to check. So maybe we can check it, but for now, let's skip that. So you can see we are creating an instance of this public HTTP client. So this public here has no authorization header attached. And if you're making a post, this must be an async. Now with the post that you are making, you can see we pass in the auth URL, and the endpoint is going to be the register. We pass in the user in here. We check if the status code is not equal to success. Then we want to return error occurred, but in case it is, we want to return content. We want to read the content, and now in the form of a general response, which has a boolean as a flag, and also a message as a response from the process. And that's going to handle the create async. Let's do same for the signing async too. So with this too, we're going to have, we create the same public client, and this must be an async. I believe you know, since it's going to be a task. Then here I return a login response. So we check there's a route in here, specify with the payload, and I will read the response here in the form of login response. Okay, now we're going to test it with the refresh token. We come back to this later on, but with the get weather forecast, maybe we can just also create the same public one, but this time this is going to be a private. So this will be a private because, you know, we are going to decorate this with an authorized attribute to the endpoint. So let's make this as private. And now in here, let's go to solution. We check the server and now the weather forecast controller. Let's make this as an API / controller name. And now with this, we can specify this as authorized. And now even we can add, I want us to remove this, so we can have a get method. And now this, you want to have authorized. And now in here, let's specify roles as only admin. So only admin can have access to this. We can also change this to user. Okay, but for testing purpose, you're going to make it an admin later on. We can also switch to user, and now test it in there and see. So we have this set in here. Let's go back to the user account service. So here we create a private HTTP client which is going to add token to the header, and now after that you can now make a call from this and now return. This coming with an array of list in here. Okay, so let's go to the pages in here and let's try to modify that. But before we modify this in the razor component, we have to create a custom authentication state provider. What are this going to do? The custom auth state provider is going to handle all user authentications when switching between pages. So moving from page 1 to page 2 is going to check. It is the duty of this custom auth state provider to check if the user is authenticated or not. And if the user is authenticated, then it's going to use this authorized component to hide and now show features that you want to show based on the role that we have added to the user. So it is very important in this. So we have to create the custom auth state provider, and you're going to put that in the same helpers folder from the client library. So in the client library, you can see we have this is a helper. Let me close the server. Now the same helper, let's right click on this. Let's add a new class. And I will say custom authentication state provider. Let's add it. Now after adding this so it is going to be a public. I believe you know that, isn't it? And this is going to help from custom authentication state provider. So this is an inbuilt from the component authorization, and it has one abstract class that we can implement in here. So authentication state provider, and it is saying, okay, so let's see, control period. So we have no method, meaning that we have not installed this component dot authorization. Let's try to include the namespace here. Okay, so we haven't installed that. It means you have to install this package in here. So let's grab this. Let's go to solution. Now from this client library, right click on this, and now manage NuGet packages, and let's install this package here. Yes, so we have to install this. Now when we go back to the custom auth state, we have it now. We can implement an abstract class from this, and that is a get authentication state async. So anytime you are switching between page 1 to page 2, this method is going to be called. So anytime that you move from one page to the next page, this method will be called. So that is where it's going to check if the user is authenticated or not. Okay, so let's see. Now that we have this, what can we do here? We have our local storage service created, which get token from the local storage, and we also have a serialization where we can deserialize and serialize models. And we have our get HTTP client, which we can retrieve public and private HTTP clients with header and with no header. So what we're going to do here, we are going to inject them and now start using them here. So first, let's inject the local storage service, because we're going to retrieve token from local storage service. We can do that from this section. So local storage service, then we create an instance of this. The first thing is we're going to create an anonymous as a claim principal, and now it's going to have with no identity, as you can see. Now we check if we want to get token stream from the local storage initially. So anytime the page loads, check communicate to local storage and get a token. This must be an async in the form of a string. So we are checking if token here, it is null, meaning user is not registered. They want to tell the app that this user is not registered. So you want to return tags from results, new authentication state with anonymous, you want to do that. But in case the user here, this token is found, what can we do? We are going to deserialize this token. So first, let's deserialize it into model. So into this user session model. And now we're also going to check if this model is null. Then what are you going to do? You want to also do same. Okay, although it is not, but it is good that we check it check it out. Now the next thing is, after deserializing it, we're also going to decrypt the token. So how can we decrypt the token? We have to, because the token that we create comprises of the claims. we want to decrypt token and retrieve all claims. And these are the claims that we need to set into this authentication state provider. So we want to create a method here to decrypt this token. We pass the token in here. Then after decrypting the token, this is going to return with the get user claim. So this claim, in case this claims here, it is null. We want to also return anonymous as user. It is not authenticated. So anytime that returns null, it means user is not authenticated. You want to return null or that's anonymous to the user, and that anonymous here is a new instance of claim identity, which tells the user that, or which tells the component that the current user, it is not registered or is not authenticated. Okay, so we need to create this decrypt token. Now this decrypt token is we're going to decrypt the token that we have in here. So we need to create a private method to handle that. But before we do that, we let's also add the next method to handle it. Let's say after we've retrieved the claims in here, what we're going to do here is, once you have the claims, we are going to set the claims and I'll return it as a claim principal. So after I return the claim principal, then we're going to pass it to the authentication state. And at this time round, we're going to return the same tags from results. And now we pass in this claim principal. So this is going to tell the app that the user is not authenticated. It is no more anonymous, rather it's authenticated because you have the claims in here. Let's define these two general models here. Now the first one here is a decrypt token. Let's have it down here. So what are we doing? There is a private static custom user claims. This custom user claim is the model that we need to create. So quickly let's get this created. And let's create that in the user DTO. So that's going to be the base library, which contains all the models and the DTOs. So let's add a new class. And this is going to be a custom user claims. Now this custom user claims is going to handle few properties. And it's going to be a record type. So let's grab this. And in here, we are just having an ID, name, email, and a row. So this is what we need. We need a name, ID, email, and a row for this token. So this is what we're going to use to authenticate the user. These are token, or these are claims, not token, these are claims that we set during the authentication or during token formation. So if I could remind you, let's go to the data access layer, that is the server library. Now you can see from the repository and the implementation folder, you can see we have this user account repository. And now when it gets to this create async, or that is a login async, we are creating claims. Now where are these claims? Let's see from this generate token. So you can see from the generate token, we are creating these claims. We have an ID, we have name, email, and a row. So the same token, the same claims is what we are decrypting to retrieve. So we are retrieving them in the user service. No, that's the user service, the custom auth state. You see we are retrieving the same user ID, name, email, and a row. So create it in the server and I retrieve them in the client. That's what we are doing. So in case you are checking if this is null, then we want to return new instance of this. But in case it is not, then we want to get a token, decrypt it, read the claims from it, and I retrieve all user ID, name, email, row, and I return a new custom. Since the record type, we can specify this as a parameter to this method. And that's what this user claim is going to do. So here we have this user claim as an object. Once we have this model here, we are going to set this model into the set claims principal. So let's also handle that set claim principal method. We also create another private method in here, and this is going to return a claim principal. And here it is accepting this as a payload. This is a model that we accepting it here. So this is a custom user claim, and that is what we are passing here. So the output of this decrypt token is going to be an input of this method here. That is a get claim. So this is going to set the claim to this claim principal, and that's going to return, as you can see from, it's going to return a new claim principal with these claims in it. So we have the ID, the name, the email, and then the row. Now we give the name here as a JWT Auth, meaning JWT Authentication. And aside from that, we can save this. So that's what we are doing. So we are getting data from local storage, encrypting it, and now we visualize the token. We get the claims in it, set to the claim principal, and now return that. So anytime the page loads or navigates from one page to another, this method is going to be called all the time. But what if in case the user tries to log in, what can we do? We want to now set the token to local storage and also call this set claims, and now set the claim to token and refresh the page. Okay, so we want to handle that in here. So this method is not going to be private because you're going to be calling this outside the scope of this. So we're going to make it as public, and I will say public async task and update authentication states. We pass the user session as the refresh token and at the token. And aside from that, we create a new instance of this claim principal. Now here we check if token is null. If it's not equal to null, and our user session also user session.refresh token is not equal to null. So we are checking from this. If it is not equal to null, then we want to serialize it. As you can see, we serialize into a string. Then we set to the token to the local storage. So you can see we have set token local storage service.set token. We pass in the string in here, and also we want to get all user claims. So we decrypt the token that is coming in, and we set to the claim. So the claim that we created an instance in here, we call this set claims to return a new claim with a new claim which has retrieved the claims from the token and now set it. Aside from that, we call the notify authentication state change. Then we pass in the claim that we have created in here. Okay, but in case this user session it is null, it tells you that maybe the user wants to remove or not want to log out. So if the person wants to log out, then we still call this local storage service dot remove token, then notify authentication state change. So after the token has been removed, this is going to get reloaded. As soon as this page, this component gets refreshed, check here, it's going to come to this, and I get the token from local storage. In case it is null, then it's going to return anonymous, meaning the user is not registered. So that's what we are doing for this custom auth state. So the next to do here is we have to register the services that we have created. So in order to do that, let's go to the clients, and now we go to program.cs file, and in here let's register these services here. So we are using this authorization call, and now we add this Blazor local storage. Since we installed Blazor the local storage, we also want to register this get HTTP client, so we can inject it as we've done. We do stay into local storage, and now we also create dependency injection in between this auth state and the custom auth state that we created. So from that, we have this user account interface, and we have 8 implementation service. We also register that. The next thing to do here is, in order for this client, which has a different port, to communicate to the server, which also has a different port, we have to register calls. Okay, so calls will help it to communicate from the client to the API. So in here, to handle that, we go to the server first, then where from the server, that is it, is over here. Now let's go to the properties. Let's go to line settings. And from here, we have from HTTPS. Since our app is running on HTTPS, we want to grab this. Okay, now let's go to the program.cs file from the client. So this is a client. Now in here, instead of this beta.host environment.base address, we want to remove this and now specify our own. Okay, so in here, let's add the first line like this. So it means the base address is going to be the API. All right, now let's go to the API 2. That's going to be the server program.cs file, and also handle that. So we go to the server program.cs file. Now in here, we have to add calls to this. So in here too, we're going to add the calls of beta.services.add calls. And now here we give it a name as maybe allow Blazor WebAssembly. Okay, so allow Blazor WebAssembly. And now here we need to configure some options with this. So here's going to be the endpoint for this Blazor. So to get the URL or the address, we also go to the client and now go to properties, and from the line settings, from the HTTPS, it is 7239. So let's grab that. Let's go in there and I'll change it in here. So for HTTPS, it is 7239. And also when you check from the HTTP, it is 5245. So you can also grab that and I'll make a change 5245. But we are running on HTTPS, so there's no need for us to even do this. But in case you want to run on HTTP, then you have to include this as well. Then allow any method and any header, and also allow credentials so that the authentication section or the authorization section can be added, and now send it to the API. Okay, so we have this done. Let's use the code that we have created. We can do that down here where you have this app middleware pipeline. So let's implement app.use calls, then pass in the name of this call here. Okay, so that is all that we need to do here. The next thing to do is to handle or to surround the cascading authentication states around the route. The route is found in the app.razor. So go to the client. Now you can see from the client, we have this app.razor. So within here, we can surround it with a cascading authentication state. So we can just make a copy of this. Then we have this cascading auth state, control period. We need to include the namespace in here. And now this must be an authorized route view. And now in that, when we authorize and you want to just display a custom message, so please wait a moment whilst we authenticate you. Anything that you feel you want to include in here, you can pass it within. Okay, but this is mine. Maybe you can also specify yours. Okay, so now we have this. Let's see, I want us to display something on the screen. So as soon as the user logs in, we can see, isn't it? So let's go to the solution, and from the client, you see we have pages. From the layout, we have nav menu. So here when you go top here, because we have this as client. Okay, so with this client, maybe you can remove this and you can just paste in here. So hi, if you are authorized, you want to display the name. If you are not, you want to display hi guest. So you see you're using this authorized view, and now if you are authorized, display this. If you are not, then display guest to the user. So this is going to be displayed on top of the nav bar. And maybe when you count down here, we can have a login and a logout. So instead of having it on top there, we can also put them here. Okay, it's possible, but let's check it over there. Let's put it on top. So let's go to main layout, and then in here we can remove this, and now we can just create one. So this is going to be a class. So let's say btn none. And now with this, we can just type in something. There's going to be an href, and it is navigating to identity. Let's say account/login. That's going to be the route for our login. Then let's say this is login. We can make a duplicate of this, and I'll make this as register. So register. Let me make this as sign in. Okay. Even login will be okay, isn't it? All right, so we have this, and maybe this could be, let me make this as test danger or test this. Okay. Okay, so let's maintain this. Now the next one is, let's make a copy of this too, and now display btn. This is going to be test danger, and then this will be logout. So with this logout, we are not going to implement this. We're going to have an onClick event. So let's have at onClick. Then we say logout clicked. Let's define definition for this. So at the code section, we can have async task logout clicked. Good. So when I click on logout, this is what I want to do. So to implement this method, we need to, let's say logout model is equal to new, and here we need a user session. So we need to include this new user session model, which contains the user, the token, and the refresh token. So let's save this. Let's go up here, and we can include the namespace. So using client library, or let's say if this is the base library.dto. So that is where we have this user session. Then custom auth provider, it is coming from the client library. So let's say at using, and this is the client's library. So let's see this using. So client's library dot, we have the helper. That is where the custom auth is coming from. Now we need to inject this auth provider. So we can have at inject, then authentication, state provider, and we say this auth state provider. So this has to come from the namespace of, I think, Microsoft.component. Let's see. So at using, so Microsoft.component ASP.NET Core.component.authorization. Yeah, that's where it's coming from. So we can move all this. We can cut this, save that, then put it in the import so we can use it in another page as well. So go to the import.razor. Now down here, let's paste this. Okay, so I want to group them. This is where we have all the inject. This is the usings. And now in here, let's also inject our user account service. And I will say this is account service. Okay, so this is also from the using of this as using. It's coming from the client library dot services dot contract. That is where this is also coming from. Okay, so we save this, we go back to the main layout, and now you can see we have it. So you can see we are calling an update authentication state method that we created. We pass in null or empty object in here, and now when it gets there, if the object is empty, if the person wants to log out, then it logs the person out. And I navigate to this page, that's the home page, and I reload the page again to get the token from the local storage. And in case you couldn't get it, then it's going to return anonymous from the custom auth state provider. Good. I believe you are good, right? So now let's see. The next thing to do here is we're going to create our component, that's the login, and now the register component. So let's go to the solution, and now here where we have the pages, this is a page that we have. We are going to create one folder in this, and I name it as account pages. So account pages. Inside this account pages folder, we want to have just a login component. So right click on this, then add a new component as login component or login page. Now inside this login page, we want to have a simple edit form in here. So when you check this, we have this error that we specified, and now we have this simple edit form in here. That is a handle login, and we use this validation to validate the model or the form. We have a user email and a user password. When you check it, so you have this user, and now that is an instance of the user detail that we have created. So we're going to use that user as the model for this edit form. If I click on login, I want to submit, and you're going to submit to this method. That's the reason why we specified it here. Aside from that, we need this nav manager, so let's include it. Even from the custom auth state, this nav manager, so that is the main layout. Yes, you must have this nav manager, so let's include it here at the same inject. So inject, this is going to be navigation manager, then we say nav manager. Okay, so when it comes to the login, as soon as we call this, we see we do the same thing here. When we have the response as true, it means the user has now logged in. Then this result is going to retrieve the token and the refresh token. So you want to push it to this update authentication state. This time around, we are not going to specify as now, right? I want to populate it in here as a token is equal to the result of token. And then we have the refresh token is equal to this result.refresh token, which is coming in as a response from the service in here. Aside from that, you want to also navigate to the home page and I reload the page so that the custom auth state can retrieve it from the local storage and now append it to the header and do a whole lot of stuff with it. Get the claims and now set claims to the claim principal and I return it to the component. Yeah, so that's what we are doing in there too. Okay, so we have this the login. Now let's handle the registration. But before we do that, let's navigate to the login page. Let's run this application and test the login. If it works, then we can also handle the registration component as well. All right. So let's quickly check it up. So I'm going to make this as a client, not a server. Choose the client here. And now we have to set the client as a startup project. So I click on the server. Let's run the server. So debug, start with that debugging. So once we have the endpoint ready, we also go in there and now start the client. Okay, so it is run, but you can see from the client we have an error in here. Let's check this up. We check the console and it is saying there's no service type for this HTTP client factory. Okay, so let's do that quickly. So I think I forgot this. When you check this, where is it? Our service, user account service. You can see from here that we create this public client, right? Now when you check this get public client, that's the service of this get HTTP client. Let's check that service. You see that here we create a new client and I will give it a name as system API client, right? So when you create this client, we have to register that, and I did not tell you, so that's the reason why we're having this error. Now let's see, let's register that. So we can go to the same client session, program.cs file. Now instead of this one, we can now use this. So builder.services.add HTTP client. Then we specify the name in here. Then with this, we can copy the name of the port, and I replace the port. Let's close this. We can comment this. Let's save this. Let's run it again, and now check it out. Yeah, so you can see this is ready, but we have login, register, and log out. Wow. We did not sound it with the authorized component, and you did not tell me. I hope you've done yours, right? So let's quickly do that. From this, where I have this login, this is going to come in as an authorized. So authorized view. And now here, if I am authorized, I want to see this. If I am not authorized, I want to see this. You see, so if I am not authorized, I want to see login and I register. If I am authorized, I want to see logout. I hope it is clear. Okay. I believe this is not the first time I'll be hearing this. You know this and you'll be using this over, isn't it? Let's save this and now let's do it again and see for now if you're also going to see this again. All right, so this must be a register. Yeah, do that before. Okay, before you forget it. So that's going to be a register, although we haven't created a register component, but we specify the name here. And as soon as you create it, that'll be all. Okay, so since we are not registered, we are not authenticated, you can see we have login register. I see. So let's go to the login. Now I'm going to click on this inspect element. We're going to call this endpoint. So let me expand this a little bit. Go to the network tab, click on register. And now here we have user at user4 at example.com. You remember we have string as a password. Now if I click on login, you can see it is calling an endpoint here, but the response here is 204. Okay, so you see in and it was 200 and the page got refreshed. So you can see here we have the logout. When we check the, because we have hi string, right? So that's going to be the name. When you check our app, where can you find the app? It is here. Let me open it some more. Yeah, so when you check this, go to local storage, open this, and because you have the token in here, this is our refresh token, and that is our token. So we are not authenticated. If I click on logout, you can see it has been removed, get refreshed, and now you're going to see hi guest. Yes, meaning you're not authenticated. And you can see you can now see login and now logout. So this is working. Now if I click on weather forecast, we have an issue here. Why? Check the network tab and now check this weather forecast. Click on it again. Let's see, it is not making even a call. When you check this console, it is saying that an invalid request URI was provided. Okay, so let's handle that so we can retrieve this. As soon as you make a call to this endpoint, then we can retrieve it from the database, or that's an API, because now we have a token added to the header as well, and you can now make a call to this endpoint. Now let's see, they created the API, that's a weather forecast endpoint, as the role as admin. User 4, it is not an administrator, it's rather going to be a user. So when this works, we must have 403, that is forbidden. Forbidden means you are authenticated but do not have access to that specific API or that specific endpoint. Let me put it that way. Okay, so quickly let's also handle that. Let's go to our source code here. Navigate to where we have this weather forecast component, and that can be found inside the client pages. And actually we have weather.razor. So here we don't need to use this HTTP client anymore. All we need to do here is we have to also clear this, because you're going to be using this weather forecast from the base library.dto. So with this, we have to use the namespace here. We have the namespace already, so we can now remove this. And I will say that there is an await account service dot get weather forecast. So we are now calling from an API. Let's save this. Now this is going to call from the private HTTP client, which is going to get from the local storage, append the token to the header, and I return an instance of the HTTP client, and now we can make a call to it. Let's run this again. So as soon as the app runs, it goes to the text and now see, do we have any in the local storage? Yeah, we have it. And now we have hello guest, right? So with this hello guest, let's log in. Let's log in here. We are going to authenticate it. Now we're going to have the data stored in the local storage. So let's check it first. After getting the weather forecast, we're going to check how does this work. Right click on this, go to the inspect, and I'm in here from the console, not the console, this network tab. Click on weather forecast, and here we have an issue 500. Let's check it out. So this is an internal server error, but you see when you check the token, you have the token added to the header. That's fine, but the real issue is, why are we having this? Let's go to the API here, the user service, and now from the refresh token, we are getting it from an API weather forecast. Okay, let's check the controller. We have the role as admin, authorized, attribute specified, and now here this is get. So let's check the endpoint. Let's try to get data here and check it up. So no authentication scheme was specified. Oh, okay. So we have not specified any authentication scheme yet. Yeah, so I did not also tell you that. All right, so let's also do that. You know, I keep forgetting things. All right, so let's quickly do that. This should have been the first thing to even do before we handle this. This has to happen within the server, and I will go to the program.cs file from the server, and that is where we have to add authentication scheme. So down here, you see we have authorization. So authentication must come. We have our authorization in here. So authentication and then authorization. Let's save that. Now let's add the scheme. So after the registration of the service, the connection, we want to add authentication. Then after adding this, we have to also add the bearer. That's going to be the JWT bearer. That is where we are going to specify our issuer, the audience, validate, etc. and etc. So you see we have validate issuer, validate audience, validate issuer signing key, validate lifetime, and now there's a JWT section. So where are you getting the JWT section? Do you remember that in the second video we made mention of JWT section as a model? We are using options to map the session in the app.json. So we don't need to use the config anymore. We can use this options. And to do that, we made a registration here. This one. So let me just remove this and put this on top here. And the next thing we need to do here is we have to cache this so we can be using it in here. So this is going to be used outside the program.cs file, and now this can be used inside this file. So the JWT section, we get a section of this, we map it to this. So that is what we're doing in here, and we are getting the byte of the key. So if you don't know where this is coming from, when you check this app.json from the server, we have this specified in the app settings. There's a JWT section, we have the key, issuer, and now the audience. And that is exactly what we are using in here. Okay. So that's what we need to do. Now let's save this. And I believe we can stop everything and I'll run this again. Okay, so let's stop this. And I'll run this again. So I will first have to, let's save all. Let's run the server. After that, you're going to run the client. And I believe this is going to solve the problem. So even here, when we test this get API, we must have 401. Let's see, 401. Yeah, we have 401, meaning it is unauthorized because we have not registered. Now let's go in there and run the client. All right, so it's ready now. Right click, let's go to inspect element, and now let's check it out and see if there will be any issue again. What do you think? If I click on this, get weather forecast. Okay, so you can see I have 403. And what is the definition of 403? It is forbidden, meaning this is only for administrators, but here you are a user you want to have access to. Let's log out. You're going to admin, then you're going to make a call, and now see it's going to go through. Log into this. Instead of this user, it's going to be user. Let's log in. There's going to be an admin. So let's log in. Okay. So to check this, because you have a new token, and that is an admin token for this. And now if I come to a network tab, let me clear everything, click on weather forecast, and that's fine, we have it. So check it out. If I click on this, you see we have the token in here. And if I decrypt this token, you're going to have it as an admin. We did that in the previous video. So go to JWT.io, paste this token. You're going to have all the claims. You're going to have all the scheme, the header, and etc. Okay, you're going to have them in there. Okay, so this is working. But here, when you check our token formation, we made it as, let's go to the user repository from the data assets layer. And in here, where we have the user account repository, when generating the token, we specify the expiry date as 1 day. So maybe this is too long for us. You cannot be waiting for 1 day to get this. So let's say add seconds, and maybe we can add, let's make it as 2. So as soon as you create this account and try to log in, this account, it has to expire. And when it expires, it means the user cannot have access to the resource again because the token giving the person access has expired. Let's check this out. So I'm going to try this. Now let's run this and see. All right, so here we are going to log in again. So let's log out so that the token will be cleared up from the local storage. And now when we log in, it's going to assign a date and time of an expiry date and time to the token. Okay, so it can expire at the date or the time specified. So log in. So once you're in, right click on this, let's go to inspect. And now let's see if when you go to the network tab, you can just click on weather forecast, and I'm going to retrieve it. So anytime that I click on it, since the token hasn't expired, you see I can able to retrieve, and any code that it makes, it appends, it has the authorization header added. So you can just be clicking on it all the time. Now let's give ourselves some time so that this token will be expired. All right, so I went offline and tried a couple of times, and you can see from the last end that it is successful now. We have a call made, token has been added, but it is still 401, meaning you are not authorized. And when you check the WWT Authenticate key, the value tells you that the bearer error, invalid token. Now the description here is the token expired at this date and this time. So the token has now expired. Any call that you try to make is not going to go through because the token is now has expired. There comes in the refresh token. As soon as the token expires, then we have to call the refresh token. Let's have a look on how to implement the refresh token. There are so many ways of implementing this. I'm going to also show you the other way around today. Normally, I do handle that in the service section, but this time around, you're going to create a custom HTTP handler, which is going to inherit from a delegating handler. And now within the handler, we're going to override the send async method. We're going to check from the request if the response or the request has a status code of 401. We want to call the refresh token. Let's see how to go about that. So let's go to the source code of this project. And now let's close everything from here. Let's go to the solution, and now where we have the user service from the service project, that's going to be the client server. So the client library, because we have this services and we have this user account service. So in here we need to implement the refresh token, and it's a post method, so we can just grab this without wasting time. We can just grab this one, and now in here we can paste it. So we get this is going to be a public HTTP client also, because for the refresh token it is anonymous. Let's go to the SQL. The solution. Now when we check this authentication controller, we can set here as allow anonymous. So it means all the endpoints here can be accessed by anonymous, but this needs a key, and that's a refresh token to get access to this. Let's save that, and let's go back again. And saying this a task, you must have an asynchronous method, and it is also returning the same login response. Now here we are not converting, or we are not returning this. We want to rather return a login response to the refresh token, and now we are going to post this token, not the user. That's all that we need to do. And now here it is refresh token. So from the controller, you can just grab the name in order not to make a big mistake here. Let's paste the name here. That's all. Copy this, and I return login response if it works. That's fine. That's all that we need to do here from the service. Now let's go in there and I'll create a custom HTTP handler in the helpers folder that we created. Right click on the folder, add a new class, and I'll name it as custom HTTP handler. Or you can name it any name at all you want to do. You can put it that. Now this has to inherit from delegating handler. So this has to inherit from this delegating handler. And there is a class. So if I click on this, it has by pip definition. It has this method, and it's also inheriting from this HTTP message handler. And in that, you can override the method known as a send async. If it is not here, then there is a method that we can override. Then we can now have access to this request. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. This must be a public. And now once you have this as a public, we can override the method known as. So here, you see we have this send async. This is a method that you want to override. Now in here, we want to check. So first of all, if it is if it is login, register, or if it is refresh token, we don't want to append header. You want to call a public and return it. So this is what we are doing. First, we check if the request contains, there's a refresh token. So login URL, let's make it URL, refresh to register URL, and a refresh token URL. So it is going to return if it contains refresh token. Okay, then we want to return. So if this contains any of these name here, it means you are calling a public URL, and instead that, or in that case, we don't want to append the authorization header on top, because these are public endpoint, and even without authorization header, we can still make a call to this. So there's no need for us to append the header, make a call to a public endpoint with authorization added to the header. You can skip that, but for now, let's actually make it clean. So we want to remove that. So to do that, you want to check if say if login URL that is true, or if register URL which is also true, or if refresh token URL which is also true. So if any of these is true, then this is what you want to do. We want to just return this. Okay, that is when it is true. So skip this, return, don't add any header. But in case it is not, and it is either like refresh to get weather forecast, get employees, or any other method, or any other endpoint, then we want to append a header. So to do that, you want to cache or store the header in here. Let's store this here as a result. So let me remove this. Okay, so this must be an async, take notes. So we store it as a result. Now the result, we are going to check if the status code is equal to 401. So if status code is equal to 401, so here must be an await, don't forget. If status code of the result here is 401, that is where we want to specify or return all this. You want to handle this. But in case it is not, then you want to return the result that we cached. And you know this result, that is this one. So if this result status code is equal to unauthorized, that is a 401, it means that the token has now expired. It could be that there's no header append, or there's no authorization section append to the header, or the token has expired. So there are two ways. First, let's check if token is there, meaning that the link or the token has expired. But in case the token is not there, then we can add a token and now make a request again. Okay, so that's what we are doing. We want to check first, and here this could give us error. So maybe we want to check if token is available. Okay, so here we're checking if token is available. But first of all, if it is unauthorized, maybe we can get token from the local storage. So let's first get token from local storage. Okay, so here we have to inject this local service. So in here, let's inject the 2, so that anytime that we need an HTTP client, we don't need to create any more because we have one in here. Let's append it. So this must be yes. So we need get HTTP client, which returns 2 methods. That is a private and public. The private one contains the header. Now local storage also allows us to set, get, and now remove. So we get the local storage in the form of a string. If it is not, return results. But in case it is not, then we are going to check if this token here is empty. So this is going to empty. In case there's no header, it's going to be empty. So if this is empty, then what are we doing? We want to just add the token to the header, and I'll make a request again. So we add the token. From here, we have to decrypt this. Okay. So in order to do that, we are calling this method the visualization visualize token.token. So here we are going to decrypt this token, and to decrypt this token, we have to just create a simple method which is going to derive from this. Let's put it on top here so we can use it within the scope of this if. So you can see we visualize the token of user session of this string token that is coming in as a string. Then we check if it is now returned, but normally it's not going to be null, but let's check for check's sake. Then in here we are passing in the serialize token.token property in it. We pass to the header. Then at the end we want to call it again. So here the second, if the response status code is 401, first let me check that the HTTP has a header known as authorization. In case it is null, then fetch the token and I'll add to the header and I'll make a request again. That's what it's doing. But in case it is not, in case it has it, that is when if this is not null, meaning that the token has expired, that is where we need to call the refresh token. Okay, endpoint. Okay, so to do that, we have to now get the refresh token. So let's create a method in here to call the refresh token, and under the refresh token we must define it here. So control period, we can just generate a method for this as a refresh token. Now this refresh token is going to come in with a token that's going to accept a token as a parameter. So we pass in a string in as a refresh token. Now in that, let's change this v to give it as an appropriate name, refresh token. Now in that you want to make a call. So when making this call, what is what you're going to do? We need to call this. We have to inject. Let's inject one more. So maybe I can then, maybe let me put this here. Let's inject iUser account. And I say this is account service. Okay, so with this account service, we can have a method in here. So var results is equal to, we can have an await account service dot then get refresh token async. This needs a model, so we can say new refresh token model. Then with this we can have token is equal to this refresh token. Okay, so this refresh token, that is just one. So you pass it over here, then we make a response to this. Now with that we can check if response is null, because it's going to return a response. So here we can even check if this result is null, because this result is going to come in with a login response. If I click on dot, you see we have token flag, we have let's see token refresh token message. Okay, so if this is null, then this is what you want to do. You want to return. Okay, so let's return this in case this token here it is null. But this token, it will never be null, because as soon as you pass in a correct refresh token, and it's going to come out with a new token and a refresh token. This is not going to be handled by the user, rather it's going to be a computer to computer or machine to machine communication. Okay, so in case it is not, or even here we can, this must be let's make it as a string. Okay, so let's return as a string from the token. So instead of this, we can return this null here. We can return null. But in case this is not, then you want to return, or maybe instead of doing all this stuff, you can just return results straightforward, then we go our way. So we can make a check in there. So return this result, very simple one. So here I want to return the result from this. Let's see, with dot refresh token. So this is a token. So before we return this token, we have to also set it to the local storage, so that anytime the person logs into another page or navigate to page and come back, the token will be there, the current one. So in order to do that, let's serialize the new one and set it to local storage. So in that you can have these two methods to handle that. So you see we serialize the token coming in, then we call serialization.serialize this object. Then this new user, we have token is equal to this result dot token. And also when you check the next one, this is going to be the refresh token. So we have the model populated here. Then we call this local storage service dot set token. We pass in this realized token, as this is going to set it. At the end of the day, we want to return only the token, not the refresh token. We want only the token. Now in here, we are going to check if this token here, it is not null. So we check if, okay, so we can say if string dot is null empty, that is the new token coming in. Definitely we know that it is not going to be null, but let's see. If it is null, then you want to return result. And now this result is what you have in here. Okay, so that's the result that we cache here. Return this result. But in case it is not, then we want to append to the header and also remake a request or remake the code again. So append to the header. So we append the new token, that's the new JWT token, and at the end of the day, make a request again. So as soon as you have 401, it's going to pause, call the refresh token API, get a token, add to local storage, remove the old one, append a new header to the HTTP client, and now remake the same call again to get the current data that we want. This is what this a custom auth they're going to do. Now, after doing this, the next thing that we're going to handle here is going to be, let's register this. So we have to do that in the program.cs file from the client server. Not the client server, the client section. So we go to the program solution. This is the client. Where is it? This is the server, client, program.cs file. That is this. Okay. So in here, all that we need to do here is to add an HTTP message handler to this. So let's add HTTP message handler to this. Then call the custom HTTP. Before that, we need to also register it as a transient. So on top here, let's put this as a transient. And that's all that we need to do. So we are good to go. Let's save this. And now let's try this again. So I'm going to close everything. So let me close all these. Okay. All set. Now let's save this first. Now let's go to solution. And now from the server, right click on the server, debug this without debugging. Let's start it. After that, we are going to also start this client. Then we're going to make a call as we did earlier on. We're going to wait for some time. If the token expires, we click on it again. You're going to see that it's going to make a call to the refresh token. And you're going to be having a new token. So let's see. We have this. Let's run the client too. Okay, so now we are still in. We navigate here to the inspect. Now let's even check. So here, you know that when you run this, the token expired already, isn't it? So if I click on weather forecast, let's see. Good. So you can see now we have a refresh token called up here, right? So now let's wait for the response of this refresh token. Good. Yes. So this is working. Have you seen that? You can see the first time we made the call to this, we had 401. This is the token. Check the end of the token. It ends with 2s. Now, the refresh token was called. And now you can see there's no authentication header attached to this. Now, when you check this, when you check the payload, we send this is a refresh token. And now this is a response from the server. We have a new token and now the refresh token. And now it came and now we made another request to the header. And now check. The refresh token here, it is the OG. So check the old one. It is 2s. Now the new one here, it is what? OG. So it means that the refresh token was called and now a new token was been retrieved, added to the header, and now make a call and now we have it. So all the time, anytime the token expired, refresh token is being initiated and now we can now have a new token for ourselves. This machine-to-machine communication, the user has no duty here. Okay. All right. So let's see. Now we left one. That is the registration component. So quickly, let's go in there and I'll create our registration component. Let's minimize this. So let's go to the solution. Now where we have the client pages, we have our account page. Right click on this, add a new register component. And this is register page. Now in this, we want to paste in this. It is the same edit form that we created. This is a route that we have, handle registration, the same as the edit form for the login that we did, the same thing. Just that here, we are using the register component, the register model. Okay. Then when you check this, you have the full name, email, password, and a confirm password. We have data annotations and the validation summary to get or to validate it for us, and we have a register button as a type as what submit, and now that is just going to handle it. So this is what we are saying. In case it's true, meaning if it works, you want to clear the model. In case it is not, you don't want to do anything. Yes, we are going to be using either maybe a notification and message handler to handle this, but for now, let's see. So this is what we are doing. Let's save this. Let me close this and reopen it again. So let's go to the register page again, and now yes, so we have it. That's what we need to do. Very simple one. You call account service dot create async. We pass in this user model. That's fine. Now let's run the client only. We know that the API is on the way, it's alive, so we're going to run the client. Then we're going to register and also log in and now test this up. So let's log out, and after logging out, we are going to log in again. We're going to register, create new account. So let's click on register, and as you see, we're in the registration page. Let's pass in Netcode. Okay, so let me increase it. Then maybe let's have an email in here. We have 5, then password string. Let's maintain the same string. Now I click on register. As soon as this becomes, it means registered, right? Now let's go to login, and now in here, passing Netcode the password, click on register login, and now you're gonna have Netcode-Hub channel on top here. Okay, this works. We're gonna have it here. So maybe later on we can use some buttons to display this. As soon as I click on this, we can have some running feature to tell the user that there's a process going on. So click on this, and let's see. All right, so this must be an email, the name. See, so this must be a user 5. Click on login, and now a call is being made from here, and the user is now authenticated. Yes, so hi Netcode. So now we are logging, and we can now make a call to this. But let's see, send this a user. Let's see, token is be append to the header. Click on this, come back again. Yes, 401. Although the tokens have been appended here, but it's not 401 because the endpoint is restricted for only admins. So that is it for this. We've seen how to consume our token login and also the fresh token system, creating a custom handler to handle automatically call the refresh token anytime the token expires, and integrate it and keep moving on. That is it for this video. Thank you so much.